It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Tale of two. What are these called again? Super rights. This is the one that I got yesterday in the mail. And it did have very good pictures that I was looking through my rose-colored glasses were on when I was bidding on this, which is fine. It's still a really nice pen, even though it has been certainly used by a previous owner to quite an extent. There's a lot of plating wear on it that happens really only through use. It doesn't happen through sitting in a drawer being neglected. And I did put a sack in it, and it has quite a nice nib. The ink is a little bit spotty in its flow, not because of the nib being broken or anything. I just didn't clean it out as well as I should have, so there's a lot of old ink still in it. Much of the old ink that was still sort of in the feed ended up in my mouth. I was blowing through it. It was clogged, and I blew through it to see if it, after soaking it in water, to see if it had been successfully cleaned. And I don't know how I managed to reverse my lungs, but I sucked rather than blew. And in so sucking, filled my mouth with 60-year-old ink. My tongue and teeth were a blue-black color for a moment. See, you can still see some of the blue blackishness. I filled it up with Waterman ink afterwards, and I did some drawings with it, but nothing worth showing you. The pen works fine. I will soak it in water, fill it up with water, and sort of try to clean it out a little bit more. I think then it will be really quite lovely. The flex is quite lovely. It's a little more, it feels a little more flexible than this one, though I think they're almost equal. My warped one that only people like me will endure even having in my hand, let alone junk box at a pen show. Oh, you want the bent ones? A dealer would say. Yes, I should have a plaque on the side of me like the Statue of Liberty. Give me your bent, your tooth-marked, your plated worn, your engraved. Yeah, see, it's still dirty in there. So, soaking it in water will be helpful. I'm going to empty the ink that I put in it, thus polluting the ink jar. Now has some molecules of 60-year-old ink in it instead of 60-day-old ink. I don't know how long the Waterman bottle was on the shelf. So I'm not one of these people who takes every single pen apart, every single pen completely apart, and then gets out my toothbrush, even though now my toothbrush has molecules of blue ink on it, I imagine. I imagine that there are people that use toothbrushes to clean do have a secondary toothbrush for their actual teeth. I don't do that, and I suffer maybe, as I'm doing here, by trying to use a pen that still has some old ink stuck in it, so it skips a bit, but usually that will go away pretty quick. Ink will dissolve and you'll be fine. It might just be a different color than you expect for a while. I'm too lazy and impatient, both, if that's possible. Can you be lazy and impatient? You're fidgety and can't be bothered to fidget. Somehow laziness seems like you'd not want to move a muscle. But I want to move a muscle. I want to start drawing with this pen immediately. So that's not really, I'm just impatient, I guess. And I don't need things to be completely 100% clean. If you look at my hands at dinner, candlelight dinner. Candlelight dinners are important to me because my hands are covered in ink. Yes, I suppose I could get out the scrub brush and the turpentine and everything to get every last particle of ink off of me, but that's where my laziness comes in. So when we go out on a date, you. No, I don't want to go out on a date with you. Sorry. If my hands are dirty. Of course, now dates are 6 feet apart. So you won't maybe see my dirty hands. I wonder what's going to happen in the future. I think everyone is wondering what's going to happen in the future. And they're going crazy. Yeah, I think I'll like this pen enough to draw a little bit with it. I probably won't write with it. I'm writing with it here just because I don't know what I would want to draw at my desk. Let's see, here's the glass that I just used. Here's the ink bottle behind it. So you see through the glass. Here's the cap of the ink bottle. Here's another ink bottle that has tweezers in it, because this is my shellac bottle. It has a nice fine. I like the color I'm getting now, and it's just mainly water and dipping, so it sort of has a grayish tone to it. Sitting at my desk here, and where I can dip a pen rather than actually fill it, there's something to be said for that, because you can, you're drawing away and you suddenly want your drawing to be lighter, the line to be lighter, then you can just dip it in the water again, and then got this light gray thing going on rather than the darker black. And you want something that's darker black, you dip it in the dark. So, often when I'm drawing at my desk, and the drawing doesn't have to be overly exact or quote perfect. I'll do this method because I've never really talked about this method before, but it's actually kind of a nice way to render something. If you want then more water, grayer line, you dip it in the water. So you've got your two solutions going. And in the fullness of time, if I was a million monkeys in a million typewriters, if I had all of those people working on these two bottles, eventually, in the fullness of time, the ink bottle and the water bottle would be equally polluted with each other's ink, so they would end up to be identical, which means nothing other than that. I mean, I wouldn't recommend this with the expectation that water is not going to enter your ink bottle and ink will not enter your water. And your pen will become more and more confused as to what it's supposed to be doing. At the pen conventions when the doors are shut and the people go home and the pens talk to each other about what, oh my God, you know what I have to do? I have to write the most vile letters from one guy to his mistress. And then he uses the same pen to write letters to his wife. He's such a hypocrite. That's what one of them says. And the other one says, he goes from ink to water and water to ink. What the heck is wrong with him? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And then some other guy says, all I do is write numbers. I never do anything else. No single word has ever come out of my nib. Only numbers. One pen, one Sharpie says, the only thing I do is be held by the tiniest hands ever. No one has dealt with tinier hands than me. And I sign things that I don't understand. And everything about me makes me want to take a bath after I'm used. I just feel so soiled. Anyway, try this out if you draw. To have a bottle of ink, small bottle of ink, just pour out enough that you just want to essentially get the nib filled with ink, and then maybe a larger glass of water, and try to do a drawing using this method. You might find it kind of fun. Here I just dipped in the black ink to get some nice dark lines going on. I watched a couple of YouTubes yesterday of people that are very talented, skillful in what they do. And I look at what I do and I think, God, what a hack I am. I usually make up some sort of lie to make me feel better, like, but I have more fountain pens than he does, or other things that I won't repeat about the size of his member. Yeah, I bet he has a 2-incher going on. God, I'm already in the gutter and it's not even 5 in the morning. So try this out though, if you want. See what happens. See if you like the idea of the two-tone drawing. You know, you can try it with a colored ink and water. You can try it with 2 different ink colors. I've done that, where I'll have a little tiny bit of red in one jar and a little bit of blue in another jar, another bottle. And I'll go sort of in between the two, and I'll get a drawing that's kind of red and kind of blue, and more red than blue, but most of the time it's kind of purpley. But anytime I want to be a little bit more red, I'll dip it into the red. And eventually, again, those 2 little bottles of ink will become more and more purple as you continue. But it's an interesting effect. Okay, now I want to really get down to white or light gray. See, you just you'll learn though that watered down ink doesn't seem to flow as well. Maybe you just think it doesn't flow as well. It's like ink is more slippery than water. It flows better through the feed or something. I might be full of shite, but I like to muse. I imagine that if I'd go online and type in water, ink, slipperiness thereof in my Google search engine, it'll come up with, did you mean something that sounds kind of like what I was asking for? But if I knew the right words, if I had the best words, like the guy that has the little fingers, little hands, if I knew the best words, I would type those in. Ink viscosity. Is it viscosity that I'm asking about? Ink versus water, viscosity thereof. Except if I was the guy with the little hands and the vocabulary, it would be hugely, bigly. I mean, how can you describe the world around you when he uses the same words to describe completely different things? We have a very special arrangement which he'll use to describe his relationship with the Queen of England and with the President of China, and the relationship he has with some lawyer, or they can't be the same. I would hope not. Use words that actually describe Mr. President, so we know the difference between the relationship you have with the Queen of England and the relationship you have with your hairdresser. You're right. I wonder how many hairdressers he's gone through. You're fired. How many are strung up in the basement of the White House for not using enough shellac one day to make his hair stay where it is? It must just take... He takes a shower and steps out of the shower, and I think I'm going to lose my lunch if I think about this too much. Okay, fast forward. So, oh my God, I'm going to have nightmares. Here is the head, and at some point we have to have a lot of hair. So here's the pie hole, here's the eyes, here's the body. And his tighty whities. Little hands. Okay, he gets out of the shower, and in order to make some sort of quantity of yellow dewness here, using his natural hair, the hair on this side of his head, I don't think he uses both halves of his brain, but the hair must be like this long, dragging on the floor of the bathroom at the White House. Then he walks over to the hair chamber where the poor hairdresser is. Y fronts here. Shorty. Okay, Shorty. Shorty walks over to the hairdresser, and the hairdresser is trembling because they have to take this 8-foot strand of 3 or 4 hairs and turn it into an actual hairdo, which then it cantilevers over the front of his pie hole, his head. So in order for it to do that, that strand of hair has to have, like, right here at its base, there must be little, this application. First of all, you have to apply enough shellac onto this hair that dries. It dries and it becomes hard. But it also has to be, it can't be dry that quickly, because it has to be shaped first. So maybe it's shaped first and sort of held in place by pulleys and ropes and wires or minions, and then completely, maybe that's how it's done, completely covered by spray shellac, so it doesn't move and it stays exactly where it is. And if it was just one hair, it would sort of break off at that end and just fall down in front of his face like a pizza falling off the table. We don't want that. So there probably are, a couple of dozen of hairs, and they're so intricately interwoven that maybe one of them has to go this way and then go back and sort of hold them all into place. It must be just, the most complicated part of our president is his hairdo. I mean, that requires more actual thought to make it do what it does than anything that he has done throughout his life or his administration has done, because just because. So I'm going off topic. Anyway, I'm happy with this pen, and this pen will make many people happy, or other people happy, one other person happy when they buy it from me at the next pen show, if we ever have a next pen show. And the person that buys it from me will not care that it has plating wear on it. I could put a nicer cap on it too, and then no one would know. There's some plating on the lever, but that doesn't bother me as much as the cap. I think what bothers me about this particular cap is the base metal under the gold is more silver colored than gold colored. And when I see the silver through the gold, it bothers me. When I see brass or another golden color under the gold, that's less bothersome. So try this out though, or 2 different color inks, and just dip and write and draw and see what you think. I'm just going to fill this with water. And let it try to soak the last ink out of the, or more of the old ink out of the thing. Bye.